everybody, and welcome to the next British Touring Car race review. This one is the Thruxton round, which is races 10 to 12. With me is my good friend Ben. Say hello.
Hello!
And like I said, we're going to be covering all of the action from Thruxton. So for those that don't know, I've been living under a rock. The Thruxton circuit is one of the fastest in the UK. It's the fastest track of the year that the touring cars visit, which usually means flat out racing and driving for the whole lap, every lap. As a result, this means that only the hardest tyre is available in terms of the dry tyre availability. And as always, just to kind of throw this out there as well, unfortunately we didn't see Bobby Thompson return because of due to a lack of funding, I believe. Something to do with his sponsors, which is a real shame, and hopefully we see Bobby back on track where he belongs and where he deserves to be. But moving into the weekend itself, there was too much after Stetson after it calmed down a little bit. The weather didn't actually play a part this time. The first time all year it's not played a part, which has been quite nice, surprisingly. The hybrid did its job. Obviously, we saw a bit of action-packed racing and things like that. Granted, not as much as we've had in the previous round and the previous meeting, should I say. But with Thruxton being a flat-out one, the hybrid actually has the least amount of effect, in my opinion, at Thruxton. So it's kind of just try as you might as you go. Just real quick as well, before we forget, many thanks to those that have tuned in, supported us and everything up until now. Don't forget, you can always find a link to the 2024 playlist down in the comments, down in the description, of every video. And obviously you can have a look for it there and scroll back and watch some if you missed any in the past. Anyway, moving into qualifying, we saw in Group 1, eliminations of Rob Huff, Smiley and Sumpton. So both of the restart racings get knocked out in Group 1. Chris Smiley and Scott Sumpton, sorry. Group 2 saw eliminations of Aidan Moffat, Sam Osborne, Darryl Leon and Nick Halstead. When we got to Q2, we saw the shock eliminations of the King of Thruxton, Josh Cook, along with Colin Turkington, as well as both Vauxhalls, Morgan and Watson. Once the Fast 6 got underway though, it was Tom Ingram who surprisingly came out on top, with Dan Camish and Jake Hill rounding out the top three. Tom Ingram's time a 1:15.379, with Camish and Hill 2.5 to 3 tenths back in second and third. Moving into race 1 though, it was a great start by Jake Hill to take the lead as Tom Ingram got swamped by a Napa sandwich, as the three of them, which is Sutton, Camish and Rowbottom, went into battle with each other, all three of them managing to get past Ingram. However, later on the lap, Robo went wide and allowed Ingram to get back past him, which promoted himself to 4th place. Due to the amount of cars going through the file chicane and Watson, I believe, hitting the tyre wall, it meant that the safety car was called into action. Once it went in on lap 3 though, it was Ingram versus Sutton, who, when on the hybrid, had more hybrid juice, really raced hard, and despite Ingram's best efforts, he couldn't get past Sutton. And due to using up all his hybrid by lap 6, it meant that it was a straight fight. However, behind him, Rowbottom was gaining on him and more crucially had more hybrid juice. Further down the field, we saw both Vauxhalls go into battle on the restart as well. This didn't really come to much, but it was a nice little scrap between them. Speaking of small scraps, there was one between Turkington, Morgan and Chilton, which, despite how close they got to each other and the potential for a huge battle, not a lot actually happened there. Up at the front though, Hill was keeping a steady gap between himself and Camish back in second. It seemed like it was Hill's to lose and Camish's to gain if any mistakes were made by Jake Hill in the BMW. On lap 13 we saw Watson and Moffat go into battle, with Watson throwing it on the inside with a great move that Moffat went sideways in. So I believe it was a case of Watson got up the inside, I think tagged Moffat, and obviously, like I say, just went sideways. Luckily he saved it, so it wasn't too bad. And apart from that, that was about it. The race wasn't a very action-packed one and very much stayed the same from start to finish. But in the end, it was Jake Hill who won from the Napa Fords of Dan Camish and Ash Sutton. So your race 1 results were Jake Hill was your race winner along with the fastest lap, Camish second along with Sutton in third, Ingram back in 4th ahead of Rowbottom in 5th, Cook 6th, Chilton 7th, Morgan 8th, Turkington 9th and Aaron Taylor-Smith rounding out the top 10. But it was a bit more action-packed in race 2, as Ben could probably attest to. So Ben, what happened in race 2?
Yeah, race 2 was an interesting race. especially towards the end. So for race 2, Jake Hill got a really good start. He was just gone like a gun. He didn't mess about. I noticed on his grid position he was slightly a bit further back, so he could see the lights. No excuse to be had from him at this point because he gave himself the advantage by not quite being on track. And it proved it because he was just gone like a flash. Sutton and Camish, they were together from the start for a little bit of a nice little inter-team battle. Sutton got past Camish on 2 wheels. Sutton was just going for it. He just went straight past him and thought, you know what, I'm having it, and just sent it through and kept the speed, as you have to do round Thruxton with the speed of the track. He then not long got behind Hill. He followed him round and he started to notice that there's a nice little gap to third. At this point I noticed that it got round to chicane at the very end of the lap. Ingram just skipped the chicane and just went straight past Camish without using the chicane, but he didn't give that the place. Now I noticed at this point he'd clearly gained an advantage from this. As you find out on lap 2, he caught up to Sutton and Hill with ease, which to me seemed like something wasn't quite right there. And he follows them round, and then not long after, Watson came straight off into the grass. It seemed he managed to get his car out of the way because it doesn't cause any pandemonium, and it was just sort of left on the grass to the side of the track for the rest of the race. Lap 3, Camish does the fastest lap and manages to catch back up to Ingram at this point. First to fourth now at this point are really close, with Ingram looking ready to pounce to get past Sutton whenever he possibly can. On lap 5, I noticed Sutton's car is smoking as he had bounced round the curb. I think on this lap or the previous lap he went into a slide and it must have knocked his splitter loose. This was causing the smoke because it just kept on hitting the ground, and this allowed Ingram to get past. We could clearly see he was losing a bit of downforce from it and his car was a bit unsteady. On lap 6, Ingram and Hill now have a small gap to Sutton as Camish looks ready to pass his teammate as well. On lap 7, Camish finally gets past Sutton with more pace because his car's just not damaged, he just got passed through with ease. On lap 8, Hill is now looks like he's getting ready to just go for it, and then all of a sudden you notice that Ingram is ready and he just goes straight through. He's about to, comes to church. Oh, there's a yellow flag, so he backs off a tiny bit, stays behind Hill to go through the zone, and then he just goes straight past him as soon as you get past the zone with ease. It just seemed like his car was giving nothing up at this point for Ingram. It seemed like he was on pace. Lap 8, Morgan Turkington are having another nice inter-team battle. I've seen there's a couple lane going on this race, with Turkington getting a nice little overtake on the inside of Morgan. He gets nicely past him. Lap 13, Turkington had carried on for the rest of the laps. He managed to now finally catch up to Cook, and it seems the Toyota just doesn't have the race at this point in the race, or probably for most of the weekend realistically. Up to this point the Toyota's not really been the best yet this year. Lap 14, Rowbottom gets past Sutton, who has now lost this part of his splitter. It just ripped off around the middle. That was the bit what was slowing him down. Last lap, Ingram wins, but we later found out that the stewards decided to demote him 2 places, so he went down to 3rd for gaining advantage in the incident involving Camish, where he just didn't give up. Therefore, Hill gets the win for this race. So your results are, your winner is Jake Hill, second with fastest lap is Camish, third because of the demotion is Ingram, fourth Rowbottom, fifth Sutton, sixth Cook, 7th Turkington, 8th Morgan, 9th Aaron Taylor-Smith and 10th Rob Huff. Over to you for race 3, Brad.
Alright, thanks Ben. So race 3 was more of a case of the usual come and go gimmicks, which was a case of put a number in a hat, you pick it out, and it was Adam Morgan who got put on pole. However, who knew what action this race was going to bring? Great start by Morgan and Cook, who managed to jump Turkington for second. However, at the complex it was 4-1 and Rowbottom was the unlucky one who got spun round. Luckily he was able to continue, but he had dropped down the order. Nick Alstead was also seen going backwards, presumably due to contact. No complete idea who actually tagged him, but somewhere at the back he got tagged and spun round, I think. 2 laps later on lap 3, we saw Jake Hill and Ingram lean on each other, but whilst this was going on, Aaron Taylor-Smith went for the place and managed to sneak past the both of them. Sutton, though, was a man on the mission as he took both Turkington and Camish in one lap and was soon hunting down Cook and Morgan in no time at all. Lap 4 saw Aaron Taylor-Smith get relegated down to 8th as Hill and Ingram both managed to get back past him in a sense of, not going to call it karma, but in a sense of, oh hey, you took us both, we're going to take you back sort of move. In a sense of deja vu, we saw Huff get past Chilton, a near enough replica move that he did back in race 2 on lap 5. Up at the front, we went from a 2-horse race to a 5-car train involving Morgan, Cook, Sutton, Camish and Turkington. Lap 7 saw Sutton and Camish both get ahead of Cook in a fast exchange, with Turkington following shortly after. Chilton's race, though, was no more, as on lap 8 he had to stop with smoke coming from his car and as such was out of the race. Cook's race didn't fare much better as Hill and Ingram both squeezed past the Toyota on the very same lap as Chilton's retirement. The following lap, on lap 9, saw a change for the lead as Sutton got his man and moved into the lead, with Camish also moving himself up into second to make it a Napo 1-2. Lap 10 saw the safety car come out and bunch the field back up, and as such it meant that it was now Sutton's race to lose. 6 laps later though, and once the safety car came in, not a lot happened on the restart, but on lap 16 we saw Ingram get stuck in with the BMWs and pass Turkington and move up into 4th place. Turkington's race though got worse as he was demoted by Cook down to 7th. Hill also did the same, however both weren't done yet as Ingram was hunting down Morgan and as such managed to get his man despite running wide on lap 18. However, up at the front, no one could stop Ash Sutton finally scoring his first win of the year, with Camish and Ingram rounding out the podium. So your race 3 results were Ash Sutton was your race winner with the fastest lap for good measure, Dan Camish in 2nd ahead of Ingram in 3rd, then we had Morgan, Hill, Cook, Turkington, Aaron Taylor-Smith in 8th, Rob Off in 9th, and Ronan Pearson, I said Aidan Pearson then, Ronan Pearson rounding out the top 10. So what does it do to the driver's standings? Well, surprisingly, or should I say unsurprisingly, after 12 races, Sutton still sits at the top, but 5 points behind him now is Jake Hill after an incredible run of form in the last 2 meetings. Tom Ingram on 155 sits back in 3rd, and near 20 points ahead of Colin Turkington in 4th, but then Turkington can't breathe too light because Dan Camish is on his tail, only 7 points behind him. Cook is still kind of in with a shout on 115 points. That's a good 30 ahead of Agam Morgan in 7th, who's 1 point ahead of Chilton, 2 points ahead of Moffat, and only about 8 points ahead of Huff, who rounds out the top 10. So Ben, just a real quick one, but who are your winners from the weekend itself?
Probably quite easy for this weekend. I'd say Jake Hill and Ash Sutton, to be fair, because they didn't need to. It was definitely Hill's weekend. He had a really good weekend, and then because he kept it together, he also got like race 2 because Ingram or his team had issues there when he didn't give the place back. In my opinion, he should have just backed off and let Camish have it, then just got past him probably in the following lap. I'd say it's easily Hill and Ash Sutton. They're doing it quite well at this point. Yeah,
I think it is I can definitely agree with that one because the thing is that Hill had a really bad Brands Hatch meeting about a month or so ago. So the fact that he's had 3 race wins on the road, 4 in reality, and the fact that he's managed to drag himself into title contention with 5 points behind Sutton, the fact that Sutton's still leading is a bloody miracle, to be honest. Usually it's Ingram that's the consistent one, but Sutton seems to have proved it. However, one thing I will like to point out, whilst we're talking about like the drivers and things like that, Dan Camish has had a pretty good weekend, I think. One of his best that he's had in a while. I think 3 podiums out of 3 this weekend.
Yeah, and the fastest lap. So he's definitely doing well in that Ford as well.
Yeah, they definitely put the Napa, the team itself has definitely improved. I mean, someone that I could say was a bit of a loser. I know we don't mention losers from the weekend, but a big loser from it was definitely Dan Rowbottom. He could have easily got more points in the bag and everything, but obviously he got turned around on race 3 and that stopped him from getting points and didn't do as well as he did 1 year ago. So bit of a shame, but hopefully he'll bounce back from that. I think it's definitely not been his year so far, but in terms of Camish, he's having a nice turn in form. But then again, Thruxton, I'd say, suits Camish as a driver, along with like Cook and stuff like that. So, but on that kind of note, just to kind of move on to the next race weekend where we're going after this. So we are off to Alton Park after this. And Alton Park is known to be a bit of a bogey track, in my opinion. And Ingram and Hill, well, Ingram and Turkington, I'd say, both go fairly well at that. Turkington definitely going much better than Ingram. But Sutton really struggles. Could this be where his season unravels? Who knows? Not exactly Hill's strongest circuit either, even though I think he got 2 wins last year. So it could be all to play for, and we never know where Camish is going to make it. I think it's a case of is to lose, and obviously you've got Morgan, who's a local lad as well, being from Cheshire himself. So everything to play for, Ben, at Alton Park, we're saying?
Yeah, could be an interesting one to watch on Alton Park. I always enjoy watching Alton Park, regardless of what motorsport's on there. It usually gives a lot of good action. It's a nice looking track. It's not completely flat and boring. It's quite nice to look at as well, so hopefully it should be interesting. If the weather holds up, it'll at least look nice for TV.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I mean, it might be a bit short-lived at this point, but hopefully we see Bobby Thompson back on the grid, I think. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd love to see him back. Like, even if he somehow could do it, just crowdfund it. I'd happily pay a bit of money as like a fan for some sort of little bit of merch or something to say I helped him get on the grid. Like, it has been done in other motorsports. As a person who did it in endurance racing, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but he managed to crowd run like most of his racing team just by asking for money off people.
Yeah.
So I would look into other routes if I was him, maybe, to see if his sponsors aren't that reliable, see what else he could think of.
Exactly.
Because he's got the talent, he just needs to be on the track.
The only thing I'd say is I'm gonna miss because we know that the I think it was the Zeus or whatever, the Zeus cloud thing. I think that's where something went wrong behind the scenes with him, I think.
Yeah, it was lovely to look at.
We'll see him on the grid, but unfortunately that purple car is going to disappear, and that's going to suck. What even makes this bad, and I'll leave you guys with this note, is that there was pictures that came out after Thruxton, but there was 4 slots in the Thruxton garage, and WSR actually brought Thompson's car to the event, to the race meeting. So clearly it was a case of, wasn't last minute, and obviously Bobby put it up I think about 2 days before, but they still took the car in the hopes that they might be able to get a sponsor deal, or he might be able to fund his drive for the weekend. So the more you know. But on that note, this is where we're going to hand this over to you guys. What are your thoughts on the weekend's racing at Thruxton? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let us know in the comments, as always. And on that note, we'll wrap this one up here. Like I said, we'll see you guys in about a fortnight's time, where we'll be at Alton Park for the Island Circuit, I believe it is. I believe that's what the circuit layout is. I don't know if it's changed much in the recent years. I always used to call it the Foster's Circuit, but it ain't Foster's anymore.
It's not Foster's anymore, no, I know that.
I think. But either way, I digress. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys around in about 2 weeks' time for the Alton Park race review. So stick around for that. Once again, much love for your continued support for all these race reviews that we do. And obviously, we'll really enjoy seeing you guys. Whenever you do comment on the videos, it's a case of, we really enjoy talking with you guys and everything. So on that note, we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are in the world. And until then, we'll see you guys in our next race reviews. Until then, ta-ra.
Bye.